I will give the cue. Yes, we are live now. So, good evening, everyone. Good evening to the 40th episode of the Yogananda Guru series. What could be better for Shoolini? What could be more inspiring for Shoolini than to have the very inspiring Dr. Kiran Bedi with us today? As you all know, Dr. Kiran Bedi is a very inspiring, I would call, daughter of India. I wouldn't speak much about her because all of you know who she is. She's the Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry. She's been a very illustrious police officer, winner of the Magsaysay Award, and I think the list goes on. The format for the day would be a 10 to 15 minute, very inspirational talk by Dr. Bedi, and then we'll get into Q&A. So please, participants, ask your questions. Don't hesitate. I'm sure Ma'am Bedi will speak from her heart. Over to you, Dr. Kiran Bedi.
So these are all college students and the faculty of your own?
We have
Yes.
people from outside and students and faculty. So we'll have around 4 to 5,000 people on this webinar, ma'am.
But that's not all that was. I thought it was a very limited college, your university only. Anyway, it's always
Mainly university students. That's right.
okay. Good. Anyway, thank you. I remember my visit to Shoolini, and it stays etched in my memory. Most beautiful, most scenic, and children very, very enthusiastic, full of life and energy. Uh, I first of all extend you my heartiest greetings on this day. I don't know how you're coping up. You all must be at home. The college is closed, and I hope you're using your time well and optimally, because nothing is permanent. All this too will go. It has come without our asking. It will go by our actions. This crisis has not come by our asking, by our doing, but it is something like nature sent. In life, it is something like 90-10. 90 things, 90% things happen by our doing, by our own actions. But 10% things come up as an X factor. An X factor is which we don't have a hand in it, but the only thing which we have in our hands is how we respond to it. So I think this is coming on to those 10. It's like a typhoon, a cyclone, an earthquake, or a disaster of a kind, which we've all seen, a tsunami. It's not generated by human mind, human created. It's not human hands which have created it. Or we can debate about the environmental challenges which we are creating ourselves by environmental pollution. But this is an area which started from China, whether it is man-made or whether it is zoonotic, whether it's by animal contamination, whether it's genuine, absolutely slip of research, that only history will tell us. But the fact is, we in India have not created it. We've only received it. How did we receive it? Because we received it through total the speed of exchange because of the human contact. And as people traveled widely from China to everywhere else, that this started to come up. So it's that 10%. So what is life about? What is preparation of academics, preparation of education is about? Is the preparation of this 10%. How do we react to this? How do we respond to it? I do know everybody is not in the same situation. Everybody doesn't have a very happy home. Everybody doesn't have resources. Everybody doesn't have the right kind of space. Everybody doesn't have the right kind of mental attitude. Everybody doesn't have the right kind of climate. Everybody doesn't have the kind of things you need at the moment, or the loved ones or the dear ones with you. Everybody doesn't enjoy the same kind of health equally. So every individual is different. That's quite understandable. But the response is in your hands, whether you are happy or sad, whether you're healthy or not. That prevention to this crisis is in our hands. And that's why it's been said we must wear a mask to protect ourselves so that we don't transmit our breath or vapors to the other, our foul mouthing, everything. And also keeping the hands clean and social distancing, and masking. So these are the 3S which have been constantly said. I do hope you're all adhering to. That's the reason most of the student community is at home. Elder ones also being home for the reason that this virus immediately attacks the immunity system. And with age, our own respective immunities has their own diminishing issues. And therefore anybody with already a health issue, the cells attack that first, and therefore whether it's kidney or it's heart or it's anything else, it gets affected. So children and the elders have to be protected. So this is the message of this crisis. Crisis is, first of all, we must understand this is not going to stay forever. Secondly is, we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. We just have to now deal with it and survive it. So, therefore, health, mental, physical, and spiritual health is the priority during this period. And no education which does not enhance your spiritual capacity or spiritual elevation, which does not increase your intellectual capacity, which does not increase your awareness about how do you deal with your system as a mind, body, soul, it's not a complete education. Understand, as far as I'm concerned, let me tell you what education meant to me. Education meant to me knowledge. It meant to me skills. It meant to me how do I become a better human being. It meant to me self-reliance. It meant to me value systems. For me, education was not just passing an examination. Examinations we all pass, we have to study, otherwise how do you get certified? But for me, education has a larger meaning. That is why you won't believe it, when I used to travel for my tennis tournaments and travel all over the country as a student from the age of 16, or rather from the age of 14. From the age of 14, I had started to travel in the train, traveling all over the country to play competitive tennis. And many times I was the only girl amongst boys because no girls were playing competitive tennis at that time. But my father used to send me, my parents used to send me. Of course, we had our own club boys, there was a coach, etc. So I used to be part of a team, but I was the only girl. But let me tell you, you students, what I used to do. At the age of 14, 15, I used to travel with my books. I used to travel with my books, and I used to take my school bag along. Why? Because I had to come back and take my examinations. But I should travel with my books. But before I travel with my books, what I'd like to share with you as an academia and of course as teachers is that I should consult my teachers. What are the books I travel with? And I should go to the library. And now we have a laptop, so we can have a immediately the Google and the Wikipedia and the research. Then we never had this. We only had a school bag. We had a main library, a hard copy library. I used to go to the library, get books issued, take them along, look at the chapters of the books which I was going to study, research, travel and read. Travel and read. So while others would have fun, so would I have fun. I would dance with them, I would laugh with them, I would sing with them, travel with them, compete with them. But when it came to the evening hour, when it was over with tennis, I used to go back to my bed, be in my room, and I used to study. I used to read and study. And when I used to come back from my exams, now why did I? It was not only for examination. I was a very research student already. So just as you do Google research now, I had these hard copies. And any chapter, for instance, if I were to study a chapter on geography or a history, and let's say I used to study in the masters, I had to do Plato, I used to do political thought, I had to do study Plato, Aristotle, Locke, Rousseau, I used to do Milton, poetry, I had English honors as well. I would research one chapter, I wouldn't leave a book on that chapter. If I were to research Plato, I studied all of Plato. If it was 10 books in the library about Plato, I read all the 10 books on Plato. And what I used to study in Plato was, why did he think the way he did? What was his environment? Why was he different from the rest? So I was very curious socioeconomically, psychologically, what made Plato? What made Socrates different? What did Aristotle do differently? So I was a very keen student of human life. So for me, education was research. For me, education was acquisition of more and more knowledge so that I could acquire and to be a better human being. Not that I wanted to top the, of course, I wanted to do exceedingly well because I was a person who was very self respecting, who always wanted to do exceedingly well, but not to say, look, I'm better than you. No, I was only to say, I'm better for myself. I'm better than yesterday. I always wanted my today better than yesterday, more knowledge than yesterday, more hardworking than yesterday, more disciplined than yesterday, more punctual than yesterday, more physically fit than yesterday, but without any pressure. There was no pressure. करना है, हम उसको जीतना है, हमको हारना नहीं है, medal लाना है. नहीं, it was self-generated. It was self-delivered. It was self-targeted. It was self-oriented. So this was for me, the meaning of education. But this goes back to my school days. My school days were that even those, if I would go from fifth standard to sixth standard, my parents used to take me to the bookshop and get me my next year's classes, next year class. And I used to get a new bag with the new classes. And I started to study during my summer vacation, playing competitive tennis, practicing, working hard, and also looking at the very curious what is in the next class, what subjects are there, what can I practice. So it was like nurture and nurturance. Something was within my nature, and something was being nurtured at home. Why am I telling you? Why am I telling you this? It's not to get your adulation or your appreciation, because this is what student life is about. Since I'm talking to academics, and now that you have time in hand, that's the reason I'm addressing this, is that use your time well. Time is precious. Time and tide waits for no man. This time is not going to wait for you. It has come and it will go away, and you will remember. Even if it look, and although one thing is very clear, it's not that some are having classes and some are not having classes, some are looking ahead, some are competing and getting interviewed. Everybody's flat. You're all equal, so enjoy. There's no competition right now. It's all together. Everybody's together. Nobody's ahead. You are all at the we are all at the starting race. We are all at the starting point. And the person, the moment the starting point is over, and you are saying, okay, now do the marathon. Those who have read now, those who are prepared now, those who've disciplined now, those who've done the better things now, those who've acquired new skills now, those who've well invested now. Yesterday, an IPS officer came here to call on me, and she had just reported to Pondicherry government. And she said, "Ma'am, before I say I'm now reporting to you as SSP in Pondicherry, you came to my school when I was in the seventh standard." She's an IPS officer today. She's come here and she told me, "Ma'am, I want to tell you, you came to my school and I was in the seventh standard then." And I would remember one line. She remembered this one line, and it comes so naturally right now for you. And what did I tell these children? I said, don't waste time, invest time. She remembered it as a seventh year student, seventh standard student. I told her, don't waste time, invest time. To me, this is a COVID time for investment. You have time in hand to have a day schedule, have a good day schedule where you will you get up early, um, get to do yoga, do a prayer, do whatever the situation is. Do your little, if you have a place, do your balcony gardening, do Surya Namaskar, do mantra jap. Depends. Be at peace with yourself. Help in the house, help people, cook around. If you have sisters and friends, have sisters, brothers, sisters, be a plan for them. Workers, do a little satsang. All of you pray together. Bring peace in the house. Then once you do that, then you have a reading hour, you have a writing hour, you have a sharing hour, you have a class hour. If you're online education, you have a timing hour, you have a preparation hour. Just get more organized. So once you do that, it will make then a creativity hour, get into reading and writing expression hour. I think that you can plan. You have a music hour. You can learn creativity. You have an IT hour, learn IT, which you have never had time. Like for instance, many people who got time now are doing IT courses. They had lost out time. They couldn't do more. But now many public officials, since we are saying only 33% people should come to the workplace, they are now using this for learning, for learning new courses. They're learning new softwares. So I think it's called invest time and don't waste time. No sulk time, no regret time, because it's not your generated. It came from that 10%. So when that comes from 10%, accept it as it comes and rise to the occasion. Build your health immunity, eat the right things, um, do right thinking, give your mind food kind of nutrition like I do, Every morning I pick up some good reading, I pick up good listening, because my morning hours are now flexible, even at work, in working. So I'm using my morning hour also to ramp up my own reading, my own morning nutrition, and surfing through the net to pick up some interesting things I could listen. So friends, there's a way of doing things. This is my opening statement. I've mixed it with my personal example because I thought it's now my age is to give you personal examples. I'm not too young. I'm pretty good now, nice in age, which means I'm into post retirement. So therefore, this is Lieutenant Governor's work is post retirement. So I'm in then my post retirement season of life where I can tell you, and when I look back, what worked for me. What worked for me was my habits of reading, habits of writing, habits of regular fitness, habits of positive thinking, habits of reading out to see what I habits of no regrets, habits of no complaints, habits of energy building, where I would build my own energy and then invest my energy, and a habit of valuing my time, having a habit of build character building. These were my habits, which have stood me in very good stead. It's because of this that I could be self-reliant all my life. I could remain a giver to, I could be of help to others. I could be a problem solver and yet remain within my means. I have a home to live. I've earned my home. I don't need more. I still don't have a personal car yet because there's been no need. And when I go back from Lieutenant Governor's office back to Delhi, I don't think I may need it. I will call a Uber or a taxi and work it out. So point is, you got to work. You got to just keep your needs at a reasonable place, and there's enough. As long as God has given you good health and capability, I think God has given you everything. But that doesn't come by chance. You got to look after it every day. I thought this would be my opening statement. Now it's 5:20. I'm with you till 6 o'clock. So I like to answer your questions so that you have almost more than half an hour, 35 minutes to connect with me, because this webinar is not to be one way of I want to thank the your university, your whole campus, your faculty members who made this possible. I see all of them are right there, Poonam Nanda and Atul Khoslaji, and your faculty, your managers, your vice chancellor, your organizers who invited me to this great interaction. Thank you. And now let's get on to questions as you would like to
Yes.
pose.
Ma'am,
Thank
before
you very much. Yeah, go ahead,
Atul,
Poonam.
I said before the others ask you a question, I actually first want to thank you because I was so overwhelmed because Atul and I just discussed that, we should invite you for a Guru talk. And I said I would send a mail. And I was so amazed because I sent it in the evening and next morning you had replied. It was unbelievable. And I was so excited. I went running to Atul and I said, guess what? She replied. And I have written 3 mails to you and you have responded to each one of them. Your secretary may have taken some time, but you have not. Honestly, thank you so much for that. My first question is, how do you manage this? I mean, you must be getting hundreds of emails every day. How do you manage? I must be one of them. So how do you manage your day so well, and how do you respond to each one of us so beautifully? Do tell us.
I think it's being respectful towards you. It's a respectful to communications we receive. I believe if I've opened myself, then I must respond. Now, I get many WhatsApp messages also on the phone of all kinds of grievances and complaints. They are all responded. Because if they have written to me and I've made myself accessible, then I have to respond. So I have to create systems. I respond. I make my team respond. I create teams, and I also have good people. You see, you also get the nature also sends you good people to work with. It also gives you teams to work with. So my intention is to be of help. But then God also connects with me people who can help. And we work together. So it's a teamwork also. Somewhere it's an individual response and somewhere it's a team response. But the spirit underlying the entire thing is, if somebody is in need, genuine need, and is we can be of help, then don't delay. Then be there.
Such
Lovely. Thank you
wonderful
so
words, ma'am. Thank you very much. I was getting goose pimples when you were speaking. So thank you very, very much. My wife, Avni, you of course won't remember, but she was at Bal Bharti in Delhi, and she presented her work to you. So every second day, Avni comes to me and says, Dr. Kiran Bedi had come and patted my back. So I think she owes part of her career to you. And she's got a question for you. She's asking that in retrospect, if you had to do something different in life, what would that be?
Look, I have two other academic degrees. I did a law degree and I did a PhD. So I could have been both a practicing lawyer also and a lecture and a teacher also in college or university. I opened two more fronts for myself other than the Indian Police Service career because I liked justice and I liked teaching and I loved education. So if I were to do not this, I did. I served as a lecturer for political science in Khalsa College for Women 2 years prior to my Indian Police Service.
Correct.
I was already in the teaching profession. If by chance I had not made it to the All India Civil Services, I would have gone into university teaching a lot. I would have done my PhD the way I did. Even after doing PhD, that is the reason I opened up two more careers for myself. Or the third career, full-time giving, was my two NGOs. I set up two non-profit organizations also to serve the community. So could have also been a full-time community worker. So there are three. And by the way, the community work is continuing with my life. PhD post writing is continuing with my life, and law is a part of my profession. See how all the three things have actually enriched my life because I continue to invest my time by continuing education.
Fantastic. No wonder you'd, immediately agreed to come on, Shoolini. Thank you very much, ma'am. It's a love for students. So Ridhima is asking two questions, ma'am. First, she's asking, did Kiran Bedi note that she will become Kiran Bedi when she was growing up?
No, Kiran Bedi knew she'll be Kiran Peshavria. My maiden surname is Peshavria. I knew I would be Kiran Peshavria. Never knew I'd be Bedi. Bedi came later.
Yes.
So all I knew was, yes, I will be Kiran Peshavria. I used to sign up for my autographs as Kiran Peshavria because Peshavria is my maiden surname of my mother and father, which is dearest to me. And after my marriage, I used to sign Kiran Peshavria Bedi. But gradually, the Peshavria got lost in the middle.
And did Kiran Bedi knew that she would also become Crane Bedi?
Well, that I didn't know because that came from a rickshaw wala who called me Kiran ke badle Crane.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I remember, ma'am, when I was a very young boy, I was visiting Delhi. I think 1982, you were there in Delhi during the Asian Games. And my Masi was such a big fan of yours. They used to live in Maurice Nagar, and you did some amazing cleaning of Delhi in those days. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Maurice Nagar was my district. I was in charge of the district. You see, my approach was to do better wherever I was, to be of value every day. I used to look out for what can I do today. I used not sit in the office. मैं दफ्तर से निकल जाती थी रोज ढूंढने के लिए आज मैं क्या कर सकती हूँ बेटर. तो इसलिए क्रेन बेदी भी नाम इसीलिए आया था क्योंकि गाड़ियां खराब पार्क थी सब जगह गलत. तो मैंने पूछा कि इनको हटाएं कैसे क्योंकि सड़क आधी तो ऑक्यूपाइड है. तो उन्होंने कहा मैडम सिर्फ क्रेन से हम हटा सकते हैं. तो मैंने कहा हमारे पास कितनी क्रेन्स हैं सारी दिल्ली पुलिस में. बोले 2 क्रेनें हैं, एक वर्कशॉप में है और एक खराब है पड़ी हुई है. दोनों एक लाइंस में है एक खराब वर्कशॉप में. तो इस सारी दिल्ली को एक क्रेन क्या करेगी, एक क्रेन क्या करेगी. तो मैंने कहा हाँ पर क्रेनें हैं कहाँ. बोले प्राइवेट क्रेनें बहुत सारी. मैं कितनी प्राइवेट क्रेनें. बोले 16 प्राइवेट क्रेनें. मैंने कहा 16 पुलिस हूं ना. तो मैंने कहा बोलो 16 को क्रेन वालों को बुलाओ. मैंने उनको सबको बोला ये सारी 16 क्रेनें आज से ट्रैफिक पुलिस की हैं. आपको क्या चाहिए. बोले हमको चालान करे तो हमें चालान का पैसा चाहिए. मैंने कहा मुझे कोई पैसा नहीं चाहिए, तुम चालान करो मैं तुम्हें बताऊंगी कौन सी गाड़ी उठानी है. तो कोई पैसा खर्चे बिना 16 क्रेनें हम 2 दिन में सारी दिल्ली में फैला दी. इसीलिए क्रेन बेदी का नाम हुआ. कोई सरकारी पैसा नहीं खर्चा. उन्होंने भी अपना, लेकिन शर्त ये थी आप चालान उसी को करोगे जो मैं कहूंगी, ये नहीं किसी का चालान करो, पैसे कमाने के लिए नहीं है, लेकिन जो गलत है तो गलत है। तो इतनी सफाई हुई सड़कों की इसीलिए हुई क्योंकि मैं रोज निकल जाती थी देखने के लिए कि आज मुझे अच्छा क्या करना है, सुधारना क्या है, और ढूंढने जाती थी। इट्स लुक आउट। इसी पब्लिक सर्विस में अगर आप फील्ड ऑफिसर रहो तो आप बहुत काम करते हो। मैं सारी उम्र फील्ड में ही रही, फील्ड रोज ढूंढती थी। इवन एज लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर ऑफ पुडुचेरी मैंने कोई इतवार शनिवार नहीं छोड़ा इस कोविड से पहले, जहां हम लोग मॉर्निंग राउंड में नहीं निकलते एज लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर। कभी कोई तालाब, कभी कोई पॉन्ड, कभी कोई ड्रेन, कभी कोई पार्क, कोई ना कोई म्युनिसिपैलिटी में देखने के लिए कि साफ है, पानी है, लोगों को ठीक मिल रहा है, सैनिटेशन है। तो ये हम लोग यहाँ पर भी वही आदत, जो फील्ड की आदत जो मैं छोटी उम्र में थी, टेनिस खेलने की, रोज भागने की, एक्सरसाइज करने की, वही फील्ड वर्क मेरे काम में 100% आ गई। और मुझे फील्ड के बिना तसल्ली नहीं मिलती। देखिए जैसे ये मेरे लिए फील्ड है, आज जो मैं आपसे बात कर रही हूँ ये मेरे लिए फील्ड है। वेबिनार इज नाउ ओपनिंग अप थ्रू टेक्नोलॉजी। सो मेरे लिए जब आपने फोन किया, मेरे लिए एक आदत थी टू कनेक्ट विद पीपल। सो नाउ आई एम कनेक्टिंग थ्रू टेक्नोलॉजी। अर्लियर मैं गाड़ी लेके जाती थी, अब मुझे गाड़ी की जरूरत नहीं है, यहाँ बैठे हम काम बात कर सकते हैं। तब मैं आपकी इनविटेशन की इतनी दूर हवाई जहाज से खर्चे करके आती थी, अब मैं हम सीधा, तो क्यों नहीं मिले? ये आदत है टू कनेक्ट, आदत है टू रीच, आदत है टू बी ऑफ वैल्यू, आदत ऑल्सो सेल्फ वैल्यू। क्योंकि जब मैं आपसे बात करती हूँ तो मेरी भी थिंकिंग और क्लियर होती है, मैं भी उसके लिए पढ़ती हूँ, मैं भी कोई रिसर्च और करती हूँ, अपने आप को अपडेट करती हूँ। दिस इज अ विन विन सिचुएशन।
Excellent, ma'am. One more question on Varsha is asking. You won the very famous Magsaysay Award. It's the Nobel Prize of Asia. So tell us more about that, about your work, and how excited were you when you got the award?
Magsaysay Award was a turning point in my life. There's no doubt about it. It was turned as a turning point. क्योंकि जब मैग्सेसे अवार्ड तब आया जब मैंने पुलिसिंग में भी बहुत सुधार के काम हुए। इट वाज रिफॉर्मेटिव पुलिसिंग, इट वाज करेक्टिव पुलिसिंग। जो चोर पकड़ते थे, ड्रग्स बेचने वाला, उसका ट्रीटमेंट कराते थे, या कोई शराब, कच्ची शराब कोई बनाता था उसको सुधारते थे। हमारा सारा काम था पकड़ना और सुधारना एज ए पुलिस ऑफिसर। सो सारी लाइफ जब हमने पकड़ना और सुधारना, एक दिन मेरी पोस्टिंग होगी आईजी जेल, तिहाड़ जेल की, जिसमें कोई भी नहीं जाना चाहता था और वो समझा जाता था कि सजा वाली पोस्टिंग है। मैं जब उस पोस्टिंग में गई तब हमने वही सुधार की स्पिरिट, वही रिफॉर्म, वही करेक्शन हम तिहाड़ जेल में ले गए। अब वो 10,000 लोगों की का शहर था, शहर 10,000 का, इट वाज अ टाउनशिप जिसमें वो लोग वही रहते थे, लेकिन सारे दुखी, सारे मेंटली नेगेटिव, सारे इन वे मानसिक तरीके से परेशान और बीमार। लेकिन उसको हमने जब ट्रीटमेंट करना शुरू करा और वहां शिक्षा भी लाए, योग अभ्यास सुबह लाए, सुबह उठते थे तो योग करते थे, शाम को ब्रह्म कुमारी से प्रवचन सुनते थे, आर्ट ऑफ लिविंग करते थे, और ओशो को बुलाया हमने, और शाम को संडे को चर्च वाले आते थे, इतवार को गुरु, हमने सारे फेथ्स को बुलाया संडे की प्रेयर्स में। सो सभी फेथ्स वहां थे, तो सभी फेथ्स के लोगों को बुलाया कि इनको मानवता सिखाओ। सो जब मैंने सबको स्पेस दी कि शाम को इनको सबको मानवता सिखाओ, सभी लोग एक दूसरे को सुनने लगे, एक दूसरे के विचार समझने लगे, और उन्होंने रियलाइज किया कि ये लोग हमको बाहर बांटते हैं, मैसेज तो एक ही है, मानवता, कर्तव्य, सेवा, मूल्य, ईमानदारी, सच्चाई, छल कपट नहीं। तो व्हेन दे स्टार्ट टू गेट दीज मैसेजेस, बहुत तब्दीली अंदर आने लगी। फिर हमने 1,000 लोगों का विपश्यना का मेडिटेशन शुरू किया। 1,000 का कैंप, ये हिस्टोरिकली मैनकाइंड में पहली बारी 1,000 का एक ही टाइम पर विपश्यना का ध्यान शिविर लगा, जिसमें उनके मेन टीचर एस.एन. गोयनका जी खुद आए और एक्सपीरियंस भी किया। अगर किसी ने देखनी है ये प्रोग्राम, तो ये फिल्म है डूइंग टाइम डूइंग विपश्यना। अगर ये फिल्म देखोगे तो आपको सारा त्योहार मिलेगा और सारी फिल्म के बारे में आपको पता चलेगा। डूइंग टाइम डूइंग विपश्यना, ये 2 इजरायली विमेन ने आकर बनाई थी। वो हुआ क्या कि ये जब मेरे पास रोज, मेरे पास बहुत सारे फॉरेनर्स भी थे, फॉरेन प्रिजनर्स, ये फॉरेनर्स को भी मैं बहुत सुधारा। तो हुआ क्या, ये सारी जगह चिट्ठियां लिखते थे, मुझे नहीं मालूम, चिट्ठियां लिखते थे क्या हो रहा है यहाँ, क्या, तो सारी दुनिया में ये फैल गया अखबार। कोई टेलीविजन नहीं था उस वक्त, कोई मेजर टेलीविजन कोई कवर नहीं कर रहा था हमारा प्रोग्राम, हमारा बहुत कम था टेलीविजन उस वक्त, ऐसे तरीके की डिबेट्स नहीं होती थी। सो इट वाज ओनली पेपर न्यूज, न्यूज़पेपर्स में जरूर आता था कि हम वहां योगा करा रहे हैं, पढ़ा रहे हैं, सुधार रहे हैं। लेकिन ये जो फॉरेनर प्रिजनर्स थे, दे वर राइटिंग ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड। कोई ऑस्ट्रेलिया से आया है, कोई यूएस से आया है, कोई स्विट्जरलैंड से आया है, कोई अफ्रीका से आया है, कोई एशियन कंट्री से आया। दे वर राइटिंग लेटर्स, दे वर राइटिंग लेटर्स टू द एम्बेसीज। हुआ क्या कि इंटरनेशनल रिसर्च शुरू हो गई कि ये जो प्रोग्राम्स है ये फेक है कि जेन्युइन है। तो मुझे पता चला कि एडवांस टीम, क्योंकि मैंने प्रिजन में विजिटर्स अलाउ किए थे, तो ऐसे विजिटर भी आए, मैंने उनको परमिट किया, मुझे क्या पता कौन किस लिए आया। तो जब उन्होंने खुद आके रिसर्च की, तब उन्होंने ये देखा कि जो हम प्रिजन में कर रहे हैं यही काम हम पुलिस में करते थे। यही काम नवज्योति संस्था खोली थी, जब इंडिया विजन फाउंडेशन ये खोली थी नवज्योति संस्था ने ड्रग एडिक्ट्स का ट्रीटमेंट करने के लिए। तो उन्होंने कहा कि अरे इतने साल एक ही चीज में लगन है, वो है टू ब्रिंग पॉजिटिव रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन द पीपल एंड द पुलिस, एंड नंबर 2 हर एक चीज इज रिफॉर्मेटिव। Magsaysay Award comes for a consistency of performance. It doesn't come for 2 years work. Magsaysay Award comes for continuity. अगर आप में authenticity रही तो it comes for long term work. So उन्होंने देखा कि इसकी 25-20 साल की पुलिसिंग में एक ही भावना चल रही है, वो है सुधार, वो है प्रिवेंशन, वो है करेक्शन, वो है न्याय, वो है ईमानदारी, और वही है पुलिस और पॉजिटिव रिलेशनशिप, पुलिस और पब्लिक एक दूसरे के करीब कैसे आए। और एकदम अनाउंसमेंट हुई मैग्सेसे अवार्ड की, और मैंने आपको कहा कि टर्निंग पॉइंट ऐसे ही हुआ। तो टर्निंग पॉइंट में जो लोग इसको क्रिटिसाइज करते थे मेरे काम को तिहाड़ जेल में, कि अब ये सुधार रही तो अब तो बाहर आके ये और क्राइम करेंगे, इनको तो मारना चाहिए, इनको सजा देनी चाहिए, प्रिजन तो सजा के लिए थी। तो मैंने उसको बोला, अरे लोग जेल में है, ऑलरेडी सजा में है, अगर मैं और सजा करूंगी तो ये बाकी आके गुस्से में और रिवेंज आके करेंगे। इट्स बेटर कि मैं इनकी गुस्सा निकाल दूं, इनको नॉर्मल करके बाहर भेजूं, तो ये सेफर है ना कि आई सेंड देम एंग्री। इट इज सेफर इफ आई सेंड देम स्टेबलाइज्ड। तो वो जो क्रिटिसिज्म था वो काफी हाई प्रोफाइल भी था। वो लोग जो कि compete करते थे कि हमारे साथ बैच की है, एक ही बैच की है, या हमसे जूनियर है, इसका नाम ज्यादा, सो बहुत सारी क्रॉस थी। मैं उसकी परवाह नहीं करती थी, मैं अपना काम करती रहती थी। मैग्सेसे अवार्ड जब आया सब बंद हो गया, बोल इट स्टॉप्ड। इट एक्चुअली वाज अ मैसेज टू देम, why don't you also do what she can do, what she is doing you can also do as a public official। आपको कौन मना करता है, काम तो बराबर है ना, उसके पास भी पावर उतनी जितनी आपके पास है, लेकिन वो अपने काम को क्रिएट अपनी जिम्मेवारी बढ़ाती है, तुम अपनी जिम्मेवारी घटाते हो, तुम भी बढ़ाओ ना। सो इट एक्चुअली स्टॉप्ड। It was a turning point in my career where a lot of animosity, hostility, opposition to this correctional work and power of prevention, क्योंकि कहा जाता था कि मेडल तो टेररिज्म के लिए मिलता है, मेडल ने कितने लोग मारे, कितने लोगों से इनकाउंटर किया, कितने लोग को बचाया, ऐसे वॉरफेयर में मुझे मैक्स से मिला कितने लोग सुधारे, कितने लोग क्राइम से बचे। तो कभी भी नोबेल पीस प्राइज इसको कहते हैं ऑल्सो, इज नेवर बीन गिवन फॉर पीस प्रोसीडिंग, इट वाज नेवर गिवन फॉर पावर ऑफ प्रिवेंशन। It's awards had been given for other this max such like international। तो मैं ये कह रही हूँ something which happened by itself but it became a turning point, क्योंकि उसके बाद there's been no looking back, क्योंकि उसने फिर अवार्ड मनी भी आई, जिसकी वजह से मेरे जीवन में एक और संस्था का जन्म हुआ जिसका नाम है इंडिया विजन फाउंडेशन, जो आज भी प्रिजन रिफॉर्म्स के काम, प्रिजन प्रोग्राम करती आ रही है, प्रिजनर्स के बच्चों को पढ़ाती है, महिलाओं को पढ़ाती है, पुरुषों को स्किल करती है, बच्चों को। आज वो बच्चे जो हमारे साथ 4 साल की उम्र में थे, उनके बच्चे अब 4 साल के हो गए, क्योंकि इट्स नाउ ऑलमोस्ट 25-year-old प्रोग्राम। सो जो मेरे साथ शुरू हुए थे, सम ऑफ देम ऑलरेडी 4-year-old, सम ऑफ देम आर ऑलरेडी मदर्स एंड फादर्स, पर उनकी लाइफ बदल गई क्योंकि उनके सुधार हो गया। सो दिस इज हाउ मैग्सेसे अवार्ड केम। इट brought an award which gave birth to a new foundation, a new, and the work carries on। जो हमने काम किया तिहाड़ जेल में, वो संस्था के थ्रू ब्यूरो ऑफ पुलिस रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट एंड और एनजीओज और डोनर्स के साथ मिलके और बहुत तरक्की की। और आज वो संस्था बहुत लोगों की अच्छी सेवा कर रही है। मैंने भी उसके साथ काफी किया। जब मेरी रिटायरमेंट हो गई थी तो मैंने भी अपना समय बहुत कुछ IVF को भी दिया, इंडिया विजन को भी, नवज्योति को भी दिया। सो ये मैग्सेसे अवार्ड में ये सब लिखा हुआ है। इफ यू वांट टू नो मोर, you can go to this book, I Dare. It has the chapter on Magsaysay Award. It has a lot of documentation. आप पढ़ सकते हैं।
आप इतना सब कुछ करते हैं मैम, you've got so many foundations that you run. Of course, Poonam asked you how do you do it, but एक question रिधिमा पूछ रही है आपसे, how does your day look like? Are you still playing tennis?
I would have loved to play tennis. I fell on my shoulder. Whilst I was playing my tennis, I fell on my shoulder here, hardcore. So this had my shoulder became difficult. So it now pains if I hit a backhand. But I don't play tennis every day. But now, and secondly, it's difficult. I could have played, no bahanabaji. I'm not looking for an excuse. But you see, to leave work now at 5 o'clock is difficult because the work is at its peak at 5 o'clock. Now my priority is my work, but I do my fitness regularly. But I can go back to work if I won't be in a full-time work like this. When I go back to Delhi, I might go back to my Gymkhana club and play tennis.
Okay.
So there's one question which is it's going to make you blush. Students are asking, why aren't there more Kiran Bedis in the services today?
Well, look, I'm a product of nurture and nurturance. I don't think I'm an exception. No, I don't believe that. Any pehle 5, 7, 10 years of parenting is very important. Schooling is important. जिसको बच्ची को जो ये मिल जाए सही मिक्सचर, उसको मेरा ख्याल है उसका फाउंडेशन बन जाती है। उसके बाद उसका अपनी भी ड्यूटी बनती है कि उसकी सोच। So I think it's about making. It's a making of the person. And in the initial first 7, 8, 10 years is the making by the school and the parents and the teachers. Teachers, parents, and the school and the home. So it's a home is your first school. If that foundation is made rightly, so I think there is no looking back.
But honestly, ma'am, I mean, the way you have faced up to challenges, I mean, yesterday I was looking at an article and which said, the 10 things you would not know about Kiran Bedi. And I was so proud because I knew all 10 of them. So, you've had huge amount of challenges. And what would be your advice to our young girls today? How can they be more fearless? I mean, the way you faced up to everything and never allowed circumstances to cow you down.
It is by doing. हम लोग पढ़ते हैं लेकिन डूइंग नहीं करते. We must get involved into doing. और काम कोई छोटा नहीं, कोई मोटा नहीं. Move towards self-reliance early. आप 10वीं जमात पास कर गए, लेकिन मैंने आपको बोला, I had started to challenge my parents at the age of early for the college time कि मैं अब scholarship में पढ़ूंगी, मैं scholarship earn करूंगी, because I wanted to get on my feet faster. But I was a volunteer even at the age of 14. So अपने आप को volunteer करें काम के लिए. जितना आप volunteer करेंगे, आपको नया एक्सपीरियंस मिलेगा लाइफ का, उसमें आप कुछ सीखेंगे. लेकिन अगर आप सिर्फ किताब पढ़ेंगे तो आपको इंफॉर्मेशन मिलेगी, लेकिन वही इंफॉर्मेशन जब आप कुछ काम करेंगे छोटी उम्र में, खेलेंगे भी, ट्राई भी करेंगे, एक्सपेरिमेंट भी करेंगे, मोबिलिटी भी रखेंगे, कैंप्स भी अटेंड करेंगे, हाइकिंग में भी जाएंगे, एडवेंचर में भी जाएंगे, वॉलंटियर भी करेंगे, आपको हर जगह आपको कुछ ना कुछ नई सीख मिलेगी और आप सीखते सीखते कॉन्फिडेंट होते जाएंगे. लेकिन अगर आप अपने आप को शेल्टर्ड लाइफ में डालेंगे तब आपको कब सीखेंगे? तो आपके लिए हर चीज एक बहुत हैवी हो जाएगी. लेकिन अगर आप छोटी उम्र से खेलने लग गए, कंपीट करने लग गए, सीखने लग गए और एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर एक्टिविटीज में पार्टिसिपेट करने लग जाए, ये मत घबराए इनाम मिलेगा कि नहीं. प्रैक्टिस तो है ना, नई लर्निंग तो है ना, टीम बिल्डिंग भी तो है ना. आई थिंक दैट्स द पॉइंट. It's doing. It's the more you do, the more confident you start becoming. The less you do, the more hesitant, more diffident, more doubtful you remain of yourself. I was a doer from the very, like cycling all my time. From the age of 7, 8, when I could start cycling, I cycled myself to the school. So when I used to go cycling, आपको पता है आपके लिए एक पूरा जीवन खुल जाता है जब आप साइकिलिंग करके स्कूल जाते हैं या पब्लिक बस में जाते हैं, नॉट इन अ शेल्टर्ड कॉलेज स्कूल बस बट इन अ पब्लिक बस, जहां मुझे भाग भाग के गाड़ी को पकड़ना है, भाग भाग के पकड़ना है, बस को रोकना है, बस में घुसना है, बस में अपनी जगह बनानी है, थर्ड क्लास ट्रैवल करना है, थर्ड क्लास में अपना ट्रैवल के लिए जगह बनानी है, टिकट नॉट रिजर्वेशन में लाइन में घुस के अपने लिए टिकट लेनी है, रास्ते में उतर के गाड़ी से उतर के अपना खाना लाके वापस आना है, इस चैलेंजेस। रात को किसी जगह टेनिस के लिए पहुंचना है, रात के तो रिक्शा लेनी है, कैसे करना है। सो एवरीथिंग वाज अ चैलेंज। इट वाज इनवाइटिंग स्मॉल challenges, of course under parental supervision, पेरेंट्स की सुपरविजन, देख रेख है, लेकिन इट्स लाइक थ्रोइंग यू टू द स्विमिंग पूल के जाओ स्विम करो, आज नई स्विमिंग ये करो, ये भी स्विमिंग, ये भी ब्रेस्ट स्ट्रोक करो, अब ये बटरफ्लाई करो, अब ये इतने लैप्स करो। माय फादर यूज्ड टू से 5 राउंड लाए ना ट्रॉफी के लिए, वेयर इज योर 6th राउंड? 6th राउंड इज फॉर द एक्स्ट्रा माइल। माय पेरेंट्स यूज्ड टू से रन द एक्स्ट्रा माइल, trophy will come only when you do that extra. So I think the training to do extra is very much. So मैं जो extra, so if students, every student can find their own extracurricular activity to do and take up more challenges. डरना नहीं, घबराना नहीं, शर्माना नहीं, सीखना. This is an age while the parents are there, the teachers are there, your protection is there. This is the time to learn more. Not lose this protected time for not taking adventure and risk. That's the time to take your risks.
So beautifully said, ma'am. Sorry.
You must know what you want. You must know. I knew what I wanted. That I want to be self-reliant as I grow up. मुझे अपना कमाना है. मुझे अपना कमाना है. मुझे कभी किसी से कुछ नहीं करना है. मुझे अपना कमाना है. मुझे अपना जीवन जीना है. मैंने दूसरों के काम आना है. तो कभी पढ़ाई से फिर मेरी आंख पटी नहीं. कोई डिस्ट्रैक्शन नहीं मैंने आने दी, कोई जल्दबाजी नहीं आने दी। सी ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट था कि मुझे पहले अपने पांव पे खड़े होना है, मुझे अपना काम, अपने सेल्फ रिलायंट बनना है। सो यू सी इट वाज अ प्रेपरेटरी एंड दैट आई नेवर लॉस्ट साइट ऑफ दैट गोल एंड दैट गोल स्टिल रिमेन्स टू बी सेल्फ रिलायंट, वेदर इवन एज एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर. You have to be self-reliant. I would rule by law. I would read my rules. I would live within my financial means. I would do my things myself, which I can. But अगर help है भी तो उस पर dependent नहीं होना है, क्योंकि एक दिन वापस इस help के बिना वापस जाना है. So therefore जितनी देर है, जब नहीं है तो मुझे इस पर dependent नहीं होना है. That is.
Have you ever faced gender bias? Sorry, I interrupted you. Apologies. There's a question that have you faced gender bias during your career, and what is your message to especially girls who are getting into jobs, into building careers?
See, I could see gender bias. Girls were not preferred, but I used to make my way. Gender bias तो 100% था. 100% था. देखिए हमारा टेनिस टूर्नामेंट हो रही है, बॉयज फाइनल को कोर्ट नंबर 1 और मेरा गर्ल्स फाइनल को लास्ट कोर्ट पे. क्यों भाई? क्यों? लड़कों, बच्चों, ऑडियंस ने, स्पेक्टेटर को गर्ल्स फाइनल नहीं चाहिए? बॉयज फाइनल कर रहे हो फर्स्ट पे और हमारा गर्ल्स, तो मैं एजिटेशन करती थी, क्योंकि मैं बैठ जाती थी कोर्ट पे, पहले लाओ लड़कियों को वापस. सो आई हैव सीन, हमें खर्चा पूरा नहीं देते थे. बॉयज को दे रहे फर्स्ट क्लास खर्चा, मुझे दे रहे थर्ड क्लास. मैं क्या, क्यों? क्योंकि मैं लड़की हूं, मैं नहीं देती. ये लो, ये भी रखो अपने पास, मैं क्वेश्चन करूंगी. सो आई शू क्वेश्चन इनजस्टिस. आई न्यू इट वाज अ पावर प्ले. इट वाज अ पावर प्ले. दे थॉट हम नहीं बोल सकते, हमको दबा देंगे, तो मैं दबती नहीं थी जब मेरा अधिकार. बट आई न्यू व्हाट टू डू. आई यूज्ड टू not be impolite. I never used to be rude, but I used to say that, sir, I have spent this. This is my entitlement. I must get this. लेकिन वो है कॉन्फिडेंस की बात. अगर आप कॉन्फिडेंस, मैं कैसे करूं, मैं रोऊं, ये रोना नहीं है. मैं दूसरों को लेके चलती थी, चलो जाके बोलते. एनसीसी मैंने बहुत की, एनसीसी बहुत सिखाती है. 4 साल मैंने एनसीसी की एक भी हाजिरी मिस नहीं की. आई वॉज रिवॉर्डेड द बेस्ट एनसीसी कैडेट for 4 years running with 100% attendance.
मैम कुछ क्वेश्चंस कोविड के ऊपर आ रहे हैं. नेचुरली स्टूडेंट्स आर वेरी नर्वस. One question is, could the world have done something different for COVID? And what's your views about life after COVID? Is it going to change? What's your message to the students?
Well, if we had been alerted earlier by the country, like particularly China, which where the problem started, and had they closed their borders and stopped traveling, sending out tourists and passengers out, and alerted the world that this is a transmissible disease, it's infectious, the world could have been saved. But वो हुआ नहीं. वो जब तक फैल गया था, जब तक तब फैल चुका था, क्योंकि इतनी फास्ट एयर ट्रैवल है कि जो भी एसिम्प्टोमेटिक भी लेके आ गया. जब टेस्टिंग शुरू हुई तब तक ऑलरेडी फैल चुका था. सो अब उसके बाद सिचुएशन सिर्फ यही थी कि लॉकडाउन करो और लोगों को कुछ देर अपने आप रिकवर होने दो, क्योंकि दिस आल्सो हैज अ टेंडेंसी टू रिकवर फॉर इटसेल्फ. सो दिस वाज ट्राइड, but it could be different if we had got early signals to close down the country, close down countries. And every country in the world today has suffered. Everybody's economies, and everybody's equal now. If everybody suffered equally, there's no country which has been insulated from this. But some countries are recovering faster, some are taking longer. It also depends on the size of your populations. New Zealand is a small country. It could move in faster. Taiwan is a small country. It could move in faster. And it was also better resourced. South Korea had better medical resources, could recover faster. So these are Scandinavian countries. But some of them have done exceedingly well. I believe Germany also did very well under Angela Merkel. So we have some countries where they've done well. But ये फैल चुकी थी. अभी हमारे हाथ में, अब हमारे हाथ में है. मैं अपने आप को भी बचाऊं और अपना मेरा बचाव तुम्हारे हाथ में, तुम्हारा बचाव मेरे हाथ में. मैं तुम्हें इन्फेक्ट कर सकती हूँ अगर मैं तुम्हारे पर छींक दूं और मुझे सिम्टोमेट. इसीलिए इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू हैव अ मास्क. दैट्स व्हाई हाथों से कोई गलत आंखों को ना लग जाए, मुंह में ना जली जाए. That's why keeping tabletops clean, anything you don't touch, otherwise come and do disinfectant. So ये prevention, social distancing भी बहुत important है. इस वक्त गलती करना नहीं ठीक, लेकिन social distancing करते हुए, mask लगाते हुए, cleaning रखते हुए, you can use your time better. At the moment, you can use your time better in knowledge, in learnings. And there's so many ways of learning now, all available on the net. Pick up anything you want.
Absolutely, ma'am. There's some questions on policing. I hope you don't mind. The audience is asking these. So Arvind is asking. He's saying that our policemen are generally perceived to be corrupt and insensitive. Why is that? If you compare that with the bobbies in England, it's very different. And the second related question is, how can the police deal with corruption in politics? So these are two questions for you from the audience.
First of all, everybody is not equal. Don't paint everybody with the same brush. Today's COVID challenge is being actually dealt with by the police directly. It is police which is distributing food. It is police which is helping you stay safe. So remember, COVID is totally being internally handled with very grave risk. If hospital doctors are serving in the hospitals, putting them at risk, policemen on the ground are putting themselves at risk and making sure that we all observe safer distances, enforcement of lockdown, enforcement of now opening of the lockdown, maintaining social distances. So don't paint everybody with the same brush. Yes, we got good and bad and the ugly in everywhere. So does the police have, and so does every country has. You see what's happened recently in America, where you've had the good, the bad, and the ugly, even there. So if you keep track of police news, then no country is immune, but some countries are better than the other. However, India has its own, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But the ugly makes news. Good doesn't make news. Therefore, you lose the balance. Similarly, in corruption, it is the kind of people we come from educational society. After all, who's coming into the police services or administration? Students from universities and colleges. What did they do? What kind of character building did they make? While they have passed the test, but they don't pass the character test. But character building cannot happen after training. Character building happens before training, when you are in college, when you are at school, when you are at home. Why did the society? But the test is only of your exam of the subjects you did, the IQ. But your emotional quotient and spiritual quotient are not tested. That only life tests you. So I think we should take the blame of having produced corrupt people. Why should educational institutions not first focus on character building more than the degree giving?
Absolutely. And Poonam does a lot of that. I can assure you, ma'am. You might want to talk a minute on that, Poonam. And I think there are a couple of related questions of that which you might want to pose to ma'am.
In fact, when ma'am was talking about volunteering, ma'am, we do this very specifically for our students, and there are a lot of NGOs, whether it's muscular dystrophy or cancer or just cleaning up around our university, the small villages and all. We do a lot of work around these things. And honestly speaking, what you said when you were talking about volunteering, I agree with you 100% because I have myself seen the change in my students, not just with their communication or whatever, but it makes them so much more empathetic and better human beings when they go out in the streets and see what the world is going through. So it's an amazing experience, and I think all of us, like the foreign universities have it, we should, like we in Shoolini have a credit course for social work. I think every campus should do it, and we
They
are
should
actually quite proud of what we do.
Our girls and boys should work with panchayats also, the rural
Yes.
areas. Go and work with the sarpanch, work with the Mahila mandals, work with the women punches, so that one day, as educated graduates, they could become punches and sarpanches. Because in village development, there's a great scope these days. We must teach rural development to our students so that they don't run away from the. In fact, they should love being in the village and develop their own village and get into agriculture, horticulture, floriculture, animal husbandry, honey beekeeping. There's enough money in that, and there's so much of joy. So rather than they running to the towns and living in small rooms, no, let them love their pond, their tank, their river, their canal, and look after it. Plant more trees. You need to link them with nature. Ask your students not to run away from their own villages. Instead, invest into their own villages and take up the, as Prime Minister says, local and local. Make the local vocal, handicraft of that village, music of that village, art and culture of that village, schooling of that, medical facility of that village. I think this COVID actually should teach us not to run to urban areas unnecessarily at all.
Absolutely,
And
ma'am. Ananya is saying, everything that you've said is so high energy and so crystal clear. So, what is the source of your high energy, ma'am? How do you bring so much clarity in your thoughts?
I think energy comes from a state of mind. What do you want with yourself? Well, first of all, good health is grace. Energy, after all, comes from your body. Basically, physical energy comes from your body. But the physical energy is directed by your what you want. That's coming from your own understanding of life, right? Who do you want to be? So I think that's important. Energy is what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do with your day? And it's one day at a time. So I even if I want to sleep, I sleep to gain more energy to do well. I want to read more. If I want to rest a little, to read more. I think the secret is, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Why do you want to be? And then how do you want to be? What should you do? You have to ask these questions yourself. These and answers of these questions remains the secret of energy. Energy is all about right thinking, right food, right living, right doing, right time management. You see, it's about a lifestyle. Energy is about a lifestyle. Also, right talking, right listening. You can listen to noise and get a headache, but listen to something soft and get energy out. or do a satsang, get energy out, and get into a noisy place and get dissipated. I remember I was rewarded one day. There was an award, Mother Teresa Award in Bombay, and I flew all the way to get Mother Teresa Award in social service. Many years ago, I went to Mumbai from Delhi. And I went there, there was a large crowd, बहुत बड़ा था, बहुत बड़ा crowd था, क्योंकि उन्होंने बहुत सारे लोगों को बुलाया था इनाम के लिए, उसमें मैं भी थी. I think I must have been one of the 15 people being awarded the Mother Teresa Award for social service. लेकिन इतना ज्यादा वहां नॉइज था, इतना नॉइज था, इतना और इतना ऊंचा था, I could not stay for more than 5 minutes. I just left. I did not stay back to receive the award because what was hitting me here was more precious than receiving that physical award. So I excused myself. I said, I'm sorry, I just cannot stay because this is discharging my own energy. I can't take this noise. So thank you very much. I've come all the way. I accept the award. It's a very prestigious award for me. And I already accepted. You can send the trophy home by courier. But now मैं घर जा रही हूँ क्योंकि मैं इतना ज्यादा नहीं, क्योंकि I'm more very particular what happens to me. So I don't let others dictate over me. I handle my own self. So मेरे लिए क्या ठीक है? I have a right to, I exercise my discretion to say no. What should I say to no? And I have a discretion to exercise yes when it's time to say yes. See, I said no to something which was very precious for them. But I said no, ये तरीका नहीं है, इतना ज्यादा नॉइज मेरा दिमाग नहीं. अब दूसरों के पास अगर कैपेसिटी है बहुत सारे सुनने की, प्लीज करो, लेकिन मेरे पास नहीं है, क्योंकि मैंने ये देखा मेरी एनर्जी इससे मेरी थकान बढ़ रही है इससे. So I think these are things which come by training. You must respect yourself. That is, energy is another form of respecting you. And you do what you do. जो आप delegate कर सकते हैं, दूसरों कर सकते हैं, वो करो. आप वो करो जो आप नहीं कर सकते. That's where you invest your energy. लेकिन हम सारा कुछ वो कर सकते हैं जो हम दूसरा कोई कर सकता है. और ये नहीं कि मैं राज करूं, आप तुम करो. No, I do what I like to do. And I generate energy even out of what I do. That's the secret of my energy.
So wonderful, ma'am. I think we have got a couple of minutes left. So I guess two more questions. One, Poonam, the last one is for you. So Kavita is asking, ma'am, your biggest disappointment in life and how did you overcome it?
Look, my biggest disappointment is the kind of, at places, political leadership we have. And even sometimes, even public servants we have. To me, this is a disappointment. The kind of public officials we have, whether elected or appointed. And at any level, it's not only at the top level, it is at any level. Even sometimes the teachers we have, it's a disappointment. People who've been entrusted with an important responsibility of teaching, right? Of leading or administering, and they commit a breach of trust. To me, this is a very big disappointment. I feel very angry about it. जब लोगों को जब कुछ विश्वास दे दिया जाता है काम का और वो विश्वास लेते हैं, they ask for it, they are paid for it, and they are into those positions, and then they do not perform. To me, this is the biggest breach of trust. It could be a teacher, and let me tell you, it could be even a parent. Even a parent, to me, is a disappointment when the parents do not fulfill their responsibility of children they brought up. So for me, the biggest disappointment are guardians of society or those who've taken responsibility or been appointed and they commit a breach of trust. I'm a person who values trusting most than anything else. आपको विश्वसनीय होना चाहिए. अगर आप विश्वासघात करते हैं, you're not a good human being. You're not reliable. You've got to be a reliable human being. Particularly if you've been entrusted with responsibility of public. अपने आप को क्या करते हो आपकी मर्जी, लेकिन अगर आपने दूसरों की जिम्मेवारी ली है उसमें आप धोखा करते हो, ये बहुत बड़ी चीटिंग है. So I don't like cheating. I don't like people who cheat, people who commit breach of trust. They disappoint me. And then you can't do much about them because there are no systems, because they don't get caught. They tell lies. What do you do with them? They misinform people. What do you do with them? You can only counter them. How many times would you like to waste time doing that? So you use your energy accordingly, right? So I think what disappoints me most is when people are misled, whether by appointed public servants or elected, or parents and teachers who volunteered responsibility. उन्होंने अपनी मर्जी उनको चाह रहे हैं, otherwise you can't walk away. Parenting, you can't walk away. Teacher, get out. Let's move out. If you can't teach properly and if you can't train, transformative education nahi, move out. Like a doctor, उसको पेशेंट देना है, पेशेंट का काम है, लेकिन पेशेंट को इल ट्रीट करता है या उसको चाहता है कि मैं इससे पहले बिजनेस बना लूं. These are areas of very heavy responsibility. When they mislead, to me, that's the biggest disappointment.
So well said, ma'am. Such a different answer. Poonam, your last question.
Yes. My last question is, ma'am, you've done so many things. You've taught, you played tennis, you've run your NGOs, you've been into politics, you've hosted TV shows, won scores of awards. Is there anything left on your bucket list that you feel you still have to do?
Well, I'd never asked for anything of that kind.
Yeah.
I've just done what was the need of the hour. I have gone by the need of the hour.
Correct.
All these things have just come by the way. So I will continue to respond to the need of the hour. Whether it's my personal need or whether it's a public need. It all depends on the kind of responsibility which that day will give me. I'll only respond to that. But as long as I have energy, obviously there is action and karma with it. So if nature continues to bestow you with good energy, then it has a higher purpose. I would love to continue to fulfill a higher purpose.
Thank you very, very much, ma'am. There's so many thank yous, so many e-hugs. I think you've got so many fans over here. I can't even tell you how many comments I have. It's difficult for me to track. Once Corona gets over, we'd love to see you in person. In fact, Manju was asking, she said in one of the interviews, you sang a Punjabi song and she said, can you request Kiran ma'am to sing? I said, no, I'm not going to do that. When you're here in person, we'd love you to do that, not on a webinar. But thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, every webinar, there's a sing a song. So, very happy hug to all of you.
Yes, same to you, ma'am. And thank you so much. It's been a delight to have you. And thank you for what you are. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of yours, and I'm sure there are thousands of people on this webinar today who feel the same way. But thank you for being what you are, and thank you for being with us today. Shoolini is
I'd like to make one last statement, ma'am.
Yeah.
You said you're going to take 45 minutes and you've been 17 minutes over that. Just shows your love for students and children. Thank you so much. We are honored, delighted, and very excited. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.